What should we start with? I guess the big thing for me is obviously, well, not big thing for me, but the big thing as a wrestling fan is obviously Hulk Hogan passed away. And Hulk Hogan is a very, like many old-time wrestlers, he is a very complex person. I mean, most people aren't like just one-dimensional sort of caricatures of who you think they are, which is ironic considering the character that he played for most of his career. Hulk Hogan is possibly the most influential wrestler of all time, and, you know, is partly responsible for the reason, the boom period of wrestling, because of just how popular he was. Yeah, you know, he is very influential, very successful, got a lot of people into wrestling, got a lot of people into, I think, maybe into fitness, I don't know. You know, at the same time, like with a lot of old wrestlers, it's definitely a lot of the older wrestlers in the past, the past from the 80s and 90s, who have, let's say, colorful histories and comments about various different things. And you kind of just have to deal with the fact that he was capable of being such a huge name in wrestling, but at the same time, the man he was is, he definitely did a lot of bad things in his life as well. Like, obviously, I think a lot of people are probably focusing on the racism, because of that's like the most recent thing, because that was quite recently, I believe. It is kind of surreal to think that his final appearance on a wrestling TV show is him basically getting booed out of the building because, you know, people didn't really vibe with what his whole shtick. Obviously, was, you know, America is quite politically divisive country, I guess is an easy way of putting it, and he was definitely aligning himself to one party in particular. And then there's the whole thing with going back to the racism stuff. He talked to the wrestlers behind the scenes of the show to apologize, and the apology wasn't necessarily that, like, the recorded apology wasn't that, you know, he was sorry about what he said. It was more like he was sorry he got recorded saying it, which is not great. Not great, because, you know, a lot of the people in the company obviously are wrestlers of, you know, who are black. So obviously that didn't sit well with them. And then what else was there? I mean, this is all just the modern day stuff. I haven't even touched the stuff that he's done in the past, right? Like, Hulk Hogan is a very complex person. We're all very complex people. And in wrestling, a lot of the terms in wrestling, especially with the older sort of class of wrestlers, you know, the people who were famous in the 80s and 90s, a lot of them turned out to not be very nice people. Ultimate Warrior, for example, is one. Super duper homophobic. And just kind of, like, despicable in a way that I don't want to mess up my quotes about people and, like, falsely accuse anyone of anything. But, like, for example, Ultimate Warrior was, like, I think he said some very bad things about gay people after they had died. You know, it's kind of, yeah. I think he also said a lot of very hateful things about more than just gay people as well, because he was kind of a lunatic, which I imagine is what happens if you continue to abuse substances. Chris Benoit, yes, of course, Chris Benoit, incredibly talented wrestler, killed his wife and child and then killed himself. You can't really, like, I know people say you should separate the artist from the artist. But it's kind of hard when, you know, the person's art is literally their physical labor. It is him doing the wrestling. It's not necessarily a painting versus, like, an artist. Like, you know, you can't really separate him from the wrestling because it is physically him wrestling, right? So, you know, you have, especially in wrestling, you have a lot of people who are incredibly talented, but they also turn out to be not great people, and have, done not great things. Hulk Hogan is definitely one of those people. He is responsible for he is very responsible for the reason that the fact that wrestlers aren't employees of wrestling companies, and the fact that they are independent contractors and are getting screwed over in certain ways about their worker rights and whatnot, because he union busted in I think it was the 80s or 90s. He basically ratted on his fellow wrestlers and union busted them because they were trying to unionize and get some, workers' rights. Because if you're not aware, with wrestling, it's very, 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 very not great working conditions. So, for example, same with MMA fighters. Yeah, like for example, you could get fired, you could get injured and get fired. Whilst you're injured, they have no obligation to pay for your healthcare. When you're doing things like breaking your legs in there, or back, for example, or neck in their wrestling ring, and they have no obligation actually to help you financially with that. And in fact, they have the ability to fire you whilst you are, injured after, breaking your body for that company, for example. So there's a lot of things with wrestling that is because of the fact that they don't have, they're not employees, they're independent contractors, which is somewhat related to VTubing at the moment, because obviously the topic of the things going on with VShoujo is part and parcel because of VTubers and corporations are considered independent contractors. Hogan, very popular, very influential, also not a great person for a myriad of reasons, so yeah. But that's life, right? I imagine it's quite difficult, especially when you're coming from a present day and reflecting on the past. It'd be very difficult to stay up to, I guess, modern acceptability of what is and isn't okay. That said, I mean, he did straight up just say a lot of racist stuff, so, I think that didn't fly in the 80s, it probably wouldn't fly now. It definitely didn't fly now. Did you talk about the bullying culture in wrestling? Yes, well, obviously, Hogan did a lot to stay on top, which included screwing over everyone else to make sure that he stayed on top. That was very common. He signed a contract in 1997 that basically gave him essentially carte blanche. He essentially got to control his own character in WCW, which meant he also was able to control his own booking, which essentially means that he got to decide what he did on the show, and it basically just ruined the show for basically everyone else, right? That doesn't work for me, brother. Exactly. That's a very common phrase. It's kind of crazy. And then in TNA, TNA also signed him trying to get a boost, because it's friggin' Hulk Hogan, and he then took over and did the worst booking job I think anyone has ever seen. Hogan can straight up tell people to lose because he always wanted to win. Exactly. He always wanted to be on top. He and his friends always wanted to be on top, and so he had the power to make that happen. He screwed a lot of people over in terms of their career potential as well. Which resulted in, partly why WCW went out of business, right? Because they just didn't have anything interesting going on. Hogan getting Gawker to go bankrupt. If I'm not mistaken, the Gawker thing, was that him being recorded having sex with his friend's wife in some sort of cuckoldry type thing, and then they leaked, Gawker leaked the tape? Or something? That was that, right? That wasn't him saying the N-word and then suing them because he was recorded saying the N-word. That was the sex tape recording. Yeah, it turns out Hulk Hogan, if you didn't know, he's had multiple times being recorded, doing various things. The one that you're mentioning with Gawker, he had... What was it? He had sex with his friend's wife? And then his friend recorded it because I guess his friend had like a cuckold fetish. And then that recording leaked somewhere. And then the media company Gawker was hated by a few people, so one of the people was like a billionaire who helped fund his lawsuit, which then killed Gawker Media. I think I'm paraphrasing it correctly. I think that's how it went. Bubba the Love Sponge. Oh, it was his ex-wife. Okay. Oh, fuck. My ice cream is collapsing, guys. I might need to get a bowl. 1 sec. I'm gonna run and get a bowl. Can we get the iconic clioaite catchphrase, Hagtua? Yes, you can. Hagtua.